Constitution podcast. Today I've got a very special guest, Jayden Creighton. How are you, Jayden?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Very pleased to have you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. So you're an independent filmmaker. You've been making lots of films lately. Some of them have gone viral. Tell us how it all began.
Yeah, so I've been dabbling now probably about 12 years, I think I calculated the other day, which is a scary thought. Primarily trying to make my way into directing, I think is where the love is. But being independent, obviously everybody knows you have to wear a lot of hats. So I'm also a writer, director, producer, editor, color graders, location scout, so on and so forth.
The classic ///.
Yeah. But no, it's it's certainly a labor of love and something that I am just trying to make a career out of it, I suppose, just like everybody else, something that I can wake up and just do for my life.
So you started with Riot Girl, so that was a web series you did about 6 years ago.
Yeah, that was probably my first one that I put under my Duck Pond Productions banner, which is sort of the way I market my films now.
Yeah.
So that was it was interesting. I'd actually done a couple of short films before that, just at film school, primarily in the horror genre. And I was actually getting to the point where I was like, I just want to prove that I can do something a little bit different from horror, or maybe horror is not the only genre that I watch, because a lot of people kind of have that conception about me. It's like, no, I'm quite happy to watch a rom-com sometimes, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
So, I broke away and I really liked those kind of dark vigilante sort of crime dramas. So I wanted to kind of put my foot into that world. And I think I was watching, it was an original series based off like a established DC character, which was Nightwing. It was like Batman's sidekick. They brought out like a web series that had viral success. And, I kind of naively thought maybe I can get in and do the same thing and have the same kind of success. And it wasn't the case. It didn't go viral, but it, I'd just freshly moved to Brisbane at that point in my life. And it certainly allowed me to meet other collaborators and actors and just see some locations and some sites in Brisbane that I wouldn't have seen otherwise. So definitely don't regret doing it.
Yeah, well, you start somewhere.
Exactly.
So did you always have Duck Pond Productions as sort of the banner to create your films under? Like, what was the reason for having that?
For Duck Pond? Yeah, so Duck Pond had a couple of... I stewed on a name for a long time, and some people would be like, it's the lamest name ever. No, it has some meaning to me, though. Duck Pond is actually a Millencolin song, which is a Swedish pop punk band, so that's kind of where I got the name from. At the time, I was shooting weddings as well, so I kind of wanted something that was kind of fluffy enough to, put some more sort of professional work out there. But also maybe had a bit of an edge where you can, put a horror film under. So duck has kind of like a few plosives in the word, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
And that song that I mentioned is actually about, leaving their duck pond or leaving their home and venturing out and doing big things in the world and making a splash. So
I love that. So you went to film school. What was the experience like there? Do you think it made you a better filmmaker?
Yes and no. Film school is going to be hit and miss for a lot of people. I think when I went, it was right before the big boom that we had in sort of more prosumer technology. So at the time, you couldn't really get affordable high caliber cameras. So I was probably about 2 years late, and had I known that, I probably would have just gone out and made a film because it would have been the same price. But I don't regret it at the same time. I mean, it was a way for me to sort of organize my learning, if that makes sense. So these days you could look up YouTube tutorials and you'll get the same, band of knowledge.
Yeah, online film school.
It is, absolutely. And I certainly don't discourage people to do that because it's free and you can get anything that you want on the internet these days. For me, film school was a way to kind of structure my learning, though. It was a way to motivate me to get out of bed and just fixate on something and do it properly. So, yeah, wouldn't discourage doing it, but at the same time, I don't know if I necessarily got, bang for my buck out of it,
I think you can either spend the tuition fee on learning or you can put that tuition fee towards making a feature.
Correct.
Yeah, there is always that sort of
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah. And I don't know if at that point in my life I would have been ready to tackle a feature necessarily. So it might have been very disappointing putting that amount of money into a feature and then seeing it crash and burn. So,
yeah, that is true.
So, I wouldn't just encourage everybody to go out and shoot a feature necessarily, but a couple of good shorts, absolutely. They'll be way less on the money side of things. You'll learn a lot by doing it because you sort of, you like to evolve as you go through your short film portfolio.
Oh, yeah, you get so much better as well.
And,
you get to start to understand your style and what,
definitely.
Your collaborations get better too.
Yeah.
So you bring up a good point about starting with short films, and you have too. So now you're almost ready to release your feature.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. But tell us about sort of the short films. So you did Kinks, you did Trespassers. All of those were like really interesting and pretty different, but also unique and sort of have similarities. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started, so after Riot Girl, I moved back to my hometown of Lismore, and I was kind of just in a bit of a creative funk where I kind of wanted to maybe go back to my roots, which is a weird thing to say, even though I hadn't even found myself yet. But I didn't care so much about being associated as the horror guy anymore, because I am. Horror to me is a very important genre because that's the genre that I grew up with my friends watching. We'd go to slumber parties and eat popcorn and watch horror films. So that was really important to me, and I kind of wanted to usher that in for new audiences and people that are younger than me, up and coming. That's my dream come true, is to show the new wave of 13-year-olds. That genre. So, I was just like, well, let's do it. And I looked at films that had really inspired me at the time. Wolf Creek and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, probably the big two. And I just really wanted to do something that was kind of in that vein, maybe a bit more of an Australian spin on it, obviously. Shooting with locations that I knew that I could find as well. Southeast Queensland kind of gives us a plethora of sort of those, not wasteland, but more deserted sort of desolate areas.
Yeah.
So we just shot with what we had, and we done a casting call, and I met my cinematographer Matt Martin, who's been a really great frequent collaborator of mine, and we just went out and got it done. And I think because we believed in it so much, and because there was so much passion, and we were genuinely making a film that we wanted to make, I think that's why it kind of had the success that it did online. It went through the film festival circuit, and it picked up quite a bit of traction on YouTube. So
it went viral.
Yeah, so we ended up.
I think it had 1.1 million views.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, that's and somebody's told me since, it's almost unheard of for a film that doesn't have like an established property attached to it, like it is an original film. From a film that we shot it for about $2,200, and we didn't have any marketing spend. So it was, the fact that it kind of just picked up and done that is pretty incredible.
That's crazy. You said that it had a festival run before that, so you didn't just go straight to YouTube.
No, I did the festival thing with Trespassers. So we took home a few nominations and things like that as well. And that was a really good journey for me because that's the first time I'd really done that. So that was exciting. You get your laurels and
you get your validation.
You do, yeah. It's like a nice little pat on the back, and it's not so much that you're taking home awards or anything like that, but it's more, I don't know, it just kind of shows that you're moving in the right direction, I suppose. People are responding to your work, and that's a really good thing. And it's the same with the view count. It's not necessarily the million people watching your work. It's just that maybe your work is worth pursuing more because people are obviously responding to it, which is a nice thing.
Yeah, that's true. But then what do you say to the filmmaker that only gets 20 views?
You're still, you're still growing, and you're still evolving, and you're still doing what you love, hopefully.
Exactly. And then the recognition and all that will come later.
Exactly. And that's what I mean when I say do something that you like doing. I never make a film for the viewers. I make a film for me.
Yeah.
And whether that takes off or not, it seems to have taken off, which is a really good thing, because there's other people like me that like those sorts of films.
Exactly. So once you made Trespassers, the next one was Kinks.
Yeah, so we shot Kinks. Kinks was, I like lots of different sort of horror films. So the idea for Kinks was, to move into maybe a different sort of subgenre, I guess, or a different artistic sort of style.
Yeah.
So Kinks was certainly more like a graphic novel, I guess, is kind of how I describe it. It's kind of like a weird art film, very kind of neon cinematography.
Yeah, well, it had its like very unique style to it.
It did, yeah, and it was, a really cool film. It's actually got a lot of rewatch value to me. I really like that film because it is quite unique. The films that we were looking at weren't even necessarily horror films that inspired us. You know, we were very inspired by Drive with Ryan Gosling or The Neon Demon, which is that same filmmaker's later film. So, but we also looked at, you know, there's a lot of little nods to films like, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, Freddy walking through the boiler room is kind of similar to Catherine walking through with the lights and the smoke. So, but no, it was a lot of fun, and the actress that we got for that, Kate Logan, she's become a frequent collaborator as well. She, I met her at one of the awards nights for Trespassers, and
cool.
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny story. She, like, the first thing she asked me was like how old I was because she thought I looked really young, and I'm like, oh, how old do you think I am? She's like, nah, I don't play that shit. Like, you tell me right now. And she was just so direct and to the point, and I just kind of had her in my mind. So when I was like kind of auditioning, you know, this dominatrix character who's just so assertive and self-assured, I was like, I've got to hit this girl up. I don't know if she'll do it, but she's just like,
I love that.
One of the best things I've done in my career because Kate's awesome. So
well, and got a lot of success too, 2.4 million views.
Yeah,
wow.
So it was a bit of an underdog. We didn't do the festival thing with that one because it was right off COVID. So and it took so long because my sound team is based in Brisbane. I was in the Northern Rivers and I couldn't get here to run ADR sessions or anything like that. So it was in post-production for a long time. So when it finally finished, I didn't want to wait another 12 months before we put it online. I was like, well, look, Trespassers already had a bit of traction. Let's just see if it follows. And it did, which is fantastic.
That's crazy. So it went straight to YouTube.
Went straight to YouTube, yeah. We did one screening, though, and I was a bit unsure about it because on Trespassers, we did the screening and we had a few people we didn't know there, and there was just like a huge round of applause, and everybody was just like, let's watch it again because it was a pretty easy watch at 12 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I did the same thing for Kinks, and the auditorium that we're in just fell silent. There was no applause. There was I think because of the nature of the film, nobody really knew what to expect out of it. So it was, just a unique experience. And that was like, I was like, oh, maybe I've, overstayed my welcome in filmmaking here. So, but no, we put it online and sure enough, it found its audience, and now it's done better than Trespassers. So.
Did you do anything fancy on your YouTube account or anything, or the clip?
No, we done normal sort of just trying to get an organic following online. So I always post to my Facebook family, I call them. Just try and get as much traction as we can, likes, comments, shares, and subscribes. It sounds really corny, but it obviously helps boost the algorithm,
especially
for YouTube.
In the first sort of like few hours.
Yeah, we always try and get like the first 48 hours. I think are pretty critical. It's really hard to gauge because I feel like YouTube just changes their algorithm on the whim. But I find if you can get enough sort of following in that 48-hour period, once it hits a certain amount of views, it tends to take off a little bit more on YouTube.
Then it starts to get naturally sort of out there in the algorithm.
It does, yeah. And because of the, I actually had the title before I had the movie, and I had the font in my head. I was like, I want to call it Kinks, and it's going to be about like the BDSM sub-community, and it's going to be this pink font that's kind of like Drive.
Yeah. I think that also helps because your thumbnail is really like catchy,
it's almost clickbaity, I guess. It's not meant to be clickbaity as such, but it is. That old thing, sex sells, and that's not why we made that movie at all. But I had a catchy title in mind with a cool font, and it kind of had the built-in marketing with that film. So,
yeah, totally.
And it obviously paid off.
Yeah, that's right. Well, after you did Trespassers, because that is sort of Wolf Creek, and then you've got Kinks, which is sort of quite different.
Yeah.
I think if you have success with your first film, I think some filmmakers might be tempted to make something similar. So I was wondering, what made you sort of switch so much and like try something stylistically very different?
Yeah. Good question. I think it really comes down to just just the films I love. I love films like Wolf Creek, and I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I love 80s throwbacks as well, like A Nightmare on Elm Street. So to me, it's not even, and that's probably the one criticism I get most about my work is it never reinvents the wheel. And to me, it's because I've never tried to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to make movies that I love, like my own take on them, of course. But, Kinks was, it was very much in that kind of dark, gritty comic book world. And it's, it's stylized and it's fun, whereas Trespassers is quite bleak and grounded in realism, and that's probably why it makes it scarier for a lot more people. So
yeah, definitely. I know you have one more film there, The Cleanup Crew, that came after that.
Yeah.
And so I just want to touch on that real quick, and then we'll jump straight into that feature talk. But what made you do that one?
Again, I really wanted to go back to, I mentioned my love for sort of 80s movies, and that was kind of my take on like an 80s slasher, I guess.
Yeah.
We really wanted to, up the ante with the kills and bring in a bit more of an ensemble cast. We brought Riley back from Trespassers and Sam back from Kinks, and that's kind of how that started. And we obviously just tried to modernize it a little bit with like a new location and things like that. But the big thing about my films, I think, is I always try and establish a world based off like a image that I have in my mind. And I thought like a really cool horror film image was these guys in the cleanup crew suit outfits, those biohazard
like
suits
little
and
hazmat
masks.
looking things.
Yeah, I just thought that was just a really cool premise just to launch off. So that's kind of what started it. And I think with anything horror or even not related, Matt Groening said it best, the creator of The Simpsons. He always said like a good cartoon, you should be able to pick the character based off the silhouette of the character. I think that's a really cool way to look at it. So I've always tried to make kind of memorable images in my movies, and to me the cleanup crew is the biohazard suit and the mask. Kinks, you'll notice that the dominatrix look with the finger talons.
They're very distinct.
Yeah, Trespassers wasn't so much a look, more the identity of it. You've got the shovel scene at the end, which a lot of people comment on. That's got quite a memorable sort of image in a lot of people's minds. Well,
it seems like with your short films, you sort of practiced all different aspects of horror films, which then I think brought up sort of the experience you needed to create your feature film.
Correct, yeah. And
it all
also
adds up, the stepping stones.
It does, definitely. And not so much the experience, but also the people that you work with. Film is very, very collaborative. So having people around you that sort of, are just experts in their realm is really a blessing. And if you can find people throughout your short film progression that you can bring into that feature world with you, it just makes the job so much easier. So,
totally.
So I mentioned my cinematographer, Matt Martin. He's fantastic. Couldn't have done the film without him. Also my sound designers. I've got Michael Monaco from Alder Grove Studios. My composer, who's based in LA, used to be Brisbane based, but we still work even though we do everything through Zoom now. So it's very cool just to have people that are, close collaborators who get the genre, who get what I'm trying to do, and trying to build themselves up in that world as well. So
100%. I have the exact same experience. You do your short films pretty much to get your crew together, and then once you're happy with sort of every aspect, then making a feature film technically should be very simple because you go, okay, hey, we've worked together 3-4 times, let's do it again. You know how to talk to these people, you know how to communicate.
Definitely. You have that kind of organic rapport with each other. Matt will quite often just put the camera where I would put the camera now. He kind of just gets it. And we have that that kind of
it's like this sort of secret language.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's like you can read each other's minds.
Yeah. And that's who you want ideally. And it's the same with my sound designers, sound is such like an evolved thing, and it's kind of underlooked in a lot of indie filmmaking. But if you do the sound design properly, nobody will notice, funnily enough. He's very, very good at just putting in like little sound effects that I would have put in, or I would ask him to put in. He just kind of does it naturally. So it's a very cool process to work with people who are kind of like-minded and just understand the scope of the vision.
With the feature as well, so you have the Matriarch that you're currently working on, almost finished. Sound design's almost finished too, I hear.
Yeah, it's exciting. So we actually started the Matriarch as it was funny that Sam, I mentioned before, he's been in Kinks and the cleanup crew. He messaged me about a competition that Monster Pictures were running. They're a
with the
Australian
monster,
distribution company. Yeah, he messaged me and said that they were calling for entries around the theme mother. Like you could submit anything, it just had to be around the theme mother. And at the time, I was actually working on something else that kind of fell over. And I was like, I just don't know if I have time to do this, but, I'll have a look at it. And then I, that project fell over and I kind of looked at it again and realized I had a couple of weeks up my sleeve. And I was like, let's just make it simple. The most basic premise that you can use with Mother, which is the mother tries to kill her daughter.
Yeah.
And but instead of just submitting a log line, I was like, let's have some fun with it. That way, if it doesn't win, at least we've got a project that we're proud of.
Yeah.
So we gave Logan a call, who was the baddie in Kinks, and she was working in the mines at the time. And I think she's told me since she was actually considering retiring from acting. And then she got that call, and she was like, it might be a good way to blow off steam. And
wow.
Yeah, we made our trailer. We got into the top 10 for that competition, that Monster Pictures thing, which was really cool. It didn't win, but we did think like maybe it had the legs to go further because it had gotten this far. Maybe we can just do it on our own dollar. It's a very contained story about two characters in a house essentially. So maybe we can do that.
Did you get any funding from the competition or?
No, so the winners would have got $10,000 in development funding. So we were really kind of aiming for that and a theatrical distribution deal, which would have been nice also. But look, we I've tried to stay in touch with Grant Hardy, the director of Monster Pictures. So I've actually emailed him and tried to invite him to a screening as well, and he seems open to it. Really nice guy.
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome.
I think everything might happen for a reason. So we've kept those contacts, which is great. But at the same time, we got full creative control of our movie, which is also great. Whereas if you're taking sort of external funding, maybe you have to kind of bend it a little bit. And,
you do lose a bit of control.
Might not fulfill your original vision. So I kind of look at it that way. I'm like, well, maybe it all worked out for the best. We made the film that we wanted to make, which was the best possible film we could have done with the resources we had. In turn, we still know the Monster Pictures guys, so that wasn't a total waste of time. It's kind of a win-win.
Yeah, so. Totally. With the funding aspect, because that's what stops a lot of people, I think, from making a feature, because it just seems so daunting. Because when you hear of stories where it costs, $200,000, $1 million, just to make something that maybe even on Netflix isn't that good, I think it really just deters it, and you just sort of get a little bit in a rut. You're like, how do I get there? And so hearing from you haven't taken on any funding. So how did you go about that part?
We had been sourcing funding for Trespassers for a couple of years prior to this, and we are still developing Trespassers as a feature film, but it's much larger in scope, so it does require probably a little bit of external funding. We had gone through all the hoops, and we've had people approach us and they're like, we love this, but we want to change this. And they keep wanting to make really dramatic compromises to the story that we're just not willing to do.
Yeah.
So that kind of kept falling over, and we were like, okay, well, there'll be a time for that, but let's just try and do something with the resources we have for the moment. So that was how it kind of started, and then we just worked out realistically what I could pay everybody. I'm in a fortunate position. I work in car sales, which is fairly lucrative, which is good. So we get our commissions months and things like that. So I basically pulled together a really small team. I just offered them what I could at the time, which was my weekly wage. I'm like, if I can live on this for a week, you guys can live on it for a week. So not including my comms, because that was what was going to support me for the next few months. So that's what I offered them. And again, I already had that kind of rapport with people where they were happy to take that on. It's certainly not industry rates. Again, you kind of have to just offer what you know you can afford at the time. I took out a small bank loan as well, just to kind of get the rest of it. But we done the whole thing for $40,000, including post sound. So
wow.
None of that really went into the film at all. It was all the people involved, really. By the time you give a couple of $1,000s to this person, a couple of $1,000s to that person, that's how we done it. And the accommodation, because we all stayed in Benalbo, that was about $5,000 straight out of the budget. Catering, feeding everybody for 2.5 weeks. That's kind of where I put my producer's hat on. And I was like, how can we actually get this done? And in short, it's one, having the right team that are willing to work for, for the love of it, I guess, and just rent money. And And then, just knowing what you can do and what you can achieve. So,
wow, it's crazy. It's amazing. Before we started the podcast, you mentioned, I think it was Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
So he made El Mariachi for like $7,000.
Which is insane.
Which is crazy.
And this would have been back in the day where they had like, film cameras and things like that. Film stock would have cost him a fortune.
Yeah.
So,
Chris Nolan, $7,000 for Following.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I didn't even know about that one. There you go.
Crazy.
So it can be done. And that's the thing. I think we spoke a little bit about this before. I think a lot of filmmakers fall in the trap of thinking they need the latest and greatest in everything. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think if you have a good concept and a couple of people that understand that concept, you can make amazing things happen for very few resources. So,
people are obsessed with the latest cameras. You have to shoot on an Alexa or something, an Ari or whatever, read this.
Yeah.
And they're like, Sony sucks. But then, Hollywood makes a movie with Sony and all of a sudden everyone wants to use a Sony.
Yeah. It's, my director of photography uses Sony. That's what we've shot on primarily. And he's, I guess his cinematography standpoint is a lot like my directing standpoint. He likes to do a lot with a little. He doesn't necessarily need a focus puller and 12 camera assistants. He likes a run and gun rig that gets him the results that he's looking for. And he's done very well for that. He does a lot of government jobs. He done that documentary on Stan, Dawn of the Dolphins.
Cool.
And that became the highest rated documentary or highest watched documentary on Stan of all time. So
wow,
he's doing very, very well. And he doesn't necessarily have an Ari or a Red. Like, you don't need that camera body. It's more about good lights and how you use them. So
that classic, it's not what you have, it's how you use it.
I agree with it. And even lighting, I mentioned you need good lights. Not even necessarily good lights. There's a lot of prosumer brands now that are doing very kind of affordable offerings. There's more sort of payday lenders than there ever used to be back in the day. If you really can, you can get a $1,000 afterpay light and do wonders with it. Like, it just
that's so true. But I think there are so many YouTube channels as well that now really focus on how to get lighting for very budget aspects. Even the other day, I literally, because Dune is the talk of the town right now, so I literally saw a reel on Instagram that came up, and he's like, I recreated Dune on $0. And it's all about learning how to use Blender and things like that. Like, you really can achieve what Hollywood is making.
Absolutely, yeah.
You just have to learn. And
you do, and those are the things that are going to elevate your career, I think. It's you're never going to start with like a $40 million movie. It's just not going to happen. Use what you have at your disposal. If you care about the concept, hopefully you find other people that care about it.
Yeah.
That will organically grow your following, I suppose, and that's when you can start stepping up to sort of bigger budget things,
Totally.
And we're still in that mind frame. Trespassers was $2,200. Matriarch was $40,000. So we're just kind of stepping up as we go.
And then once you establish that you can play with these budget numbers, I would imagine that makes you more appealing for someone that is an investor that could give you $1 million for your next one.
Yeah, I hope so. We were speaking to some people about Trespassers who were established players in the industry, and they were like, we can do that. We can just get that as a tax write-off or, something like that. That's, they're words everyone wants to hear. The problem with them, though, a lot of the time you kind of get very excited about it and then it doesn't pan out for one reason or another. So keep your head about it. And, like I said, everything sort of happens for a reason. I think eventually we might rub shoulders with those people again. But if we already have a following behind us on the Matriarch, maybe they will trust our vision a little bit more in our scope. They won't necessarily want to make such big compromises to the story. So
that's so true. Having that original vision that you started off with, I think that's really important. And there's always considerations with money. Yeah. I mean, I recently attended one of the Talk to Me, big sort of like AMAs, Ask Me Anythings. Yeah. And they mentioned, I think it's very common knowledge now, that they turned down so much money because they wanted to cast specific people.
Yeah, yeah. We've had that offer. We've had for Trespassers. A producer mentioned that he could find that sort of money for us, but he did want to recast, not because he thought the talent was bad, but because he wanted people that were more going to sell tickets. You know, it was a very kind of business sort of decision. He was never nasty about it, never mean about it, but you know, he was a producer. That's what he does. He makes money.
That's true.
And I could never do that though. The reason I think Trespassers done so well is because of the talent that I had involved on it. So I could never recast my team, like unless there was a very specific reason they couldn't do it or something or didn't want to. But you know, if you have them ready to go, like I will always make that film with them. So
I think that's great. Very very commendable. That's awesome. With the Matriarch, did you write the script as well?
I did, yeah. So I once again I pretty much wore a ton of hats on that one. So I wrote it, directed, edited, and then all the sort of odd jobs that you do.
Oh, you edited as well.
I did, yeah.
Was there a specific reason for that, like to save dollars, or you were like,
budget.
I can do this?
Yeah, certainly budget, but also I think I can do it. You know, it becomes difficult when you sort of have too many cooks in the kitchen. I guess you start conversations with somebody who doesn't necessarily have the same vision, and then it's just like
it takes time as
you
well.
do. You have to talk to them and be like, oh, no, this was what I was trying to do. Like, can you make it this way? Like, I'd rather just piece it together myself and have it the way that I want it to flow. Also, because, you know, I direct, I kind of know what I have in the footage as well. So it's like I know that there's a particular take that I want to use or an angle that I really liked. So
yeah, that's true. That's actually something that I sort of forget to consider. It's like if you are the director, you know what's there. Like in the back of your mind, you know what you've pretty much taken on set. You know which performance was the best. And if you haven't written it down on the set, then if you hand that off to some external person that has never even attended the set, how would that best sort of film come together in the editing room?
The one thing, I guess, there's a lot of people that like using editors because then it's very you know, you kind of get hung up on your own concept sometimes, I guess, and some people worry about that. I think if they can give it to somebody external, they might breathe fresh life into it, which I agree with, you know, because nobody likes to cut a line, for instance. If you're a writer, nobody wants to lose a take if you're an actor. Like,
that's so
the
true.
editor will be able to piece together objectively what's the best for the film, I guess. So there's pros and cons of doing it both. But honestly, at my level, like budget dictates a lot of it as well. So for me, it's just easier for me to sit down and edit. And I get, you know, fresh perspectives of the edit. My cinematographer is also an editor. My first AD was also an editor. So it's like, you know, while we were out there, I actually brought my computer on set and we were, you know, putting together little assemblies while we were shooting. So,
cool.
So, you know, we
little dailies or something.
Yeah. Well, because we shot all nights. So we were just out in a town with nothing. So we kind of just, we would just sit around and hang out and put together little pieces of the film while we were going. And that way it was really good because then we could see what worked, what didn't work, what pickups we needed to get. We were shooting all through the night, and then during the day we would piece together little segments from the film. So
wow.
And that just gave us that flexibility to know what was working, what wasn't working, and then we could go in and adjust and maybe shoot some pickups if we needed to as well.
It was one location as well.
Yeah, primarily we shot most of it in the house on location. We did shoot a couple of little bits around town. We shot at the high school there in Benalbo, which was cool. There was one set that I built in my backyard that we just done for safety reasons more than anything. So just like a ceiling crawl space, essentially. We kind of had to manufacture one of those because we were a bit worried that our 13-year-old was going to fall through the roof on an 18-foot high set. So we just built that in my backyard just for safety. But
well, there you go, right? You sort of can bring all the elements together. Like it's very, very possible.
Yeah.
How much time was it from writing the script to, I guess, being on set and actually shooting the film?
Yeah, well, this one seems really quick because Trespassers has been on the back burner for so long. So this one felt like it just came together really organically. It was probably, I think we shot our proof of concept in October 22. And then I think we were filming the feature in July 23. So I mean,
wow, cool.
You came up with the concept in October, essentially, like right before we shot the trailer. So
and then the spec trailer. You actually went on to, set. You actually filmed something.
Yeah.
Was that how much of sort of that has remained in the film?
Yeah, quite a lot of it. It was interesting shooting it as a trailer first because we were kind of just capturing trailer moments or trailer lines of dialogue, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was interesting taking that into the writer's room and then trying to recreate that in scenes that kind of made sense. So it was really kind of different in that regard. A lot of it stayed in. We did just have to structure little changes that suited the narrative better. So in the spec, there's a bit of dialogue that's in the living room. We had to change that to the outside dining room for it to make sense organically in the story.
Yeah, cool.
So just little things like that, but a lot of it stayed in. So.
Oh, that's great. Would you recommend a filmmaker make a spec sort of trailer before jumping into a feature?
I think if I was going to do something like this again and I maybe was applying for a competition or something like that, it was a really, really cool opportunity because we showed that spec to everybody that got involved and we were like, this is what we were trying to do, and everybody got it. So it was really cool just to kind of unify the vision.
Yeah.
It was really cool also just to see what was working, what wasn't working, without any huge stakes as well. You could go out and make a short film as a proof of concept, which is essentially what Trespassers is.
Yeah.
But, Trespassers we shot over 4 days and was a lot of work and took almost a year to put together, whereas the trailer put a couple of weeks to put together, essentially. We shot it for 1 day and then bounced it to the sound guys.
That's true.
So, I mean, it's a really cool way maybe to make a proof of concept without burying all that time into a short film, which is what a lot of people do. So yeah, I'd definitely recommend that approach. It's not something I ever really thought about doing. It was just because of circumstance, obviously, but yeah, it was cool. I'd definitely do that again.
Well, I mean, sometimes people make short films to communicate visions, but actually spec trailers could also communicate that same vision whilst also showing a bit more of sort of what they can expect throughout a feature length.
Definitely,
so
yeah,
I guess,
yeah. And also just because trailers do such a good job of sort of hyping something, whereas a short film, they may turn it off in the first 30 seconds if it's not resonating with the viewer, depending on who you're showing it to.
That is very true.
So a trailer, hopefully, because it's designed to be engaging, it should grab people from the start, and they put 2 minutes and decide whether it's their project or not.
That's very true. So what would you suggest to a filmmaker that is on the journey to making their first feature film? Sort of just advice, I guess, if you were to go back and
honestly, I think stick to your guns is a massive one, and I know that sounds a little bit egocentric, like my idea is the best one in the room, but look, at the end of the day, you're making the film for you. You shouldn't be trying to make a film just to get 1 million views on YouTube. You should be making a film that you would want to see as an audience member. If you're doing that, that passion will carry you through the project. If you're not doing that and you don't believe in it, you're going to fall on the bones of your ass, basically. There's just no better way to say that.
I think you see that a lot. Like, people will make films for Sundance. I think, like, it should be sort of the other way around.
Yeah, and then what happens if you don't get accepted to Sundance? You put 2 years of your life into into something that you aren't even stoked with. Like,
exactly.
To me, that feels like a waste of time. Whereas, look, if the Matriarch does absolutely nothing in the festival world and everybody hates it, I won't hate it. I'll sit down and still watch it, and it'll still be a good movie for me. So
exactly. Jayden, what have you got coming up next?
So the Matriarch, we've got some release dates, which is exciting. By the time this airs, I think it'll be pretty well documented. But the 22nd, 23rd, and the 27th will be screening across Brisbane, the Gold Coast, and Lismore. Free screenings for anybody who wants to come. Following that, we have started talks about Trespassers again. So
the feature.
The feature. So we'll see where that happens. There's every chance we could be filming by September at this stage. So,
wow.
Yeah, exciting stuff. So
that's
we'll
very
wait and see what happens.
Jayden, thanks so much for joining the podcast. It's been awesome talking to you.
It's been a blast.
I look forward to watching the Matriarch.
Thank you. You'll have to come to one of the screenings.
Hell yeah, count me in. And for you listeners out there, good luck with your feature film, and reach out to Jayden. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer some questions. Just Creative Constitution.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you in the next one.
Awesome. Thanks so much.